Hold Alice Blue Gown, in honor of Alice sitting next to me.
Well, thank you very much. I am Alice Rose of Conversations with Alice Rose on Channel 14, Public Access Television. And this gentleman is Mr. Albert Ruggiero,
Yes.
who has published a lovely memorial to the memory of his wife of 35 years, who wrote things not for publication, but because of the pleasure of writing.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I let you begin.
Well, thank you for having me be here. And very, very briefly, because everything needs an introduction. When Carol passed in 2020, I was sitting at the table going through her writings, big basket, and I got a phone call from a lady who I know. She leads one of the bands I'm in, Linda Whitaker. And I was talking, and I said, I'm sitting at the table here with all these writings. I think I'm going to donate them to the senior center, which is where they were written for. She said, no, you have to do something with that. I thought about it. That Monday, I took the writings that I segregated into what I conceive of as chapters and brought them to Tyco and produced this. I made 22 of these, 22, and a lot of it is in her own handwriting. No, you can't see. And it was very wonderful and beautiful pictures and all that. And then I took it a step farther, and I'm on an odyssey ever since then. And the odyssey continues here with Alice. And I had the book published. The main reason is to have it in the Library of Congress, which it is. And very briefly, because I have a PowerPoint I do this on, it's in right now 175 libraries in 5 states. I've given 90 presentations, not counting this one. And I've been interviewed by Channel 8 and Channel 12 News. And it was a wonderful experience. And I've been in several magazines. This is a Milford magazine. And they did a wonderful article on it. And other people throughout the state. And so I'm traveling the tri-state area, spreading the gospel of Carol, because it's so darn good and so very funny and so very heartwarming. And that's what we hope to show you in the next few minutes.
And I want to thank you so much for having obtained publishing of these lovely stories, which are indeed very heartwarming and very revealing of her wisdom and wit and observations and remembrances. It's just a beautiful legacy that she left, and you made sure that we get to share in it all.
Listen, I'll talk to anybody. And I have, this week I was in three locations and 4, and I'm on the go, and it's very rewarding. Mm-hmm. So we're going to begin by way of a little poem. Okay. The last chapter of the book is dedicated to poetry because they are poems, and they're all very funny. And the reason is this. Whenever Carol was given an assignment she didn't particularly care for, she'd turn it into a poem and have fun with it. And she loved having fun with things, turning things on their head. And some of the inspiration, where it came from, I say this a million times, have no idea, but I think it's incredible. So we'll begin something very light and very, very funny, I think. And it's called Why I'm Late. And it's very short, and here we go. There was an elephant in my driveway, and I couldn't back out the car. When I looked at my side view mirror, it warned, elephants appear closer than they are. I backed out nice and easy, hoping the elephant had shrunk. We were now at a standoff, facing trunk to trunk. With the beast, I tried to reason, telling him I would be late if he didn't move his tail and all the rest of his weight. He thought this quite funny, threw his head back, tossed to the sky. 'Twas then we made a deal, the elephant and I. If you could just inhale and get a little thinner, when I go home tonight, I'll have you in for dinner. He flapped his ears from side to side, agreeing he would wait. There was an elephant in my driveway, and that's why I'm late.
I love it.
Now, where that came from, I couldn't begin to tell you.
What a lovely creative mind, really.
Who could think of such things?
Carol Ann.
Yes, you're right, and that's what I'm spreading all around. So a few things, yes.
I relate to so many things because we're of a similar generation,
Yes.
she and I. And, you know, her remembrances in the autobiographical section. I think the first time she got her first single blade ice skates, immediately called to mind my.
She loved ice skating.
Yes.
There's a story on page 23, and it's called, and very short, Write a Letter to Your 10-Year-Old Self. This was an assignment. And by the way, she always picked a card before she wrote, and on top of this it says 7 of diamonds.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So what the significance is, I don't know. But here you go. Write a letter to your 10-year-old self. Dear Carol, happy 10th birthday. It's hard to believe you will be going into the 5th grade. The red boots and matching umbrella were one of your favorite birthday gifts. And because I know you so well, I know you will not want to get them wet. When it rains, you will close the umbrella and keep it under your coat. The pristine boots will also stay dry as you will walk home barefoot. Everything must be perfect for you, and I now know you will not change. You will plan every step of your life, and anxiety will make you move too fast. I must admit you are a responsible child, and that will continue. But unfortunately, your perfect plans will crumble. The world is not a perfect place. You will all too soon realize this. Listen carefully to Miss Kay, your new 5th grade teacher, as she has her class recite, "The Lord is my shepherd," every day. The 23rd Psalm will make you understand there is a perfect place. Slow down, Carol. Enjoy your unperfect life on earth. And please, little 10-year-old, stay with me always. You are so much fun.
Love from your adult self, always, Carol.
Everything with Carol relates to childhood. And we're going to read one now on page...
Not altogether true, my dear, because she was a family life with you. It's revealed.
That was like a second childhood. On page 39, Old Enough. This is one of my single favorite pieces because it's tied together so well. Mm-hmm. Old Enough. My bedtime curfew was extended at the age of 10. At last, I was allowed to watch Ralph Edwards host a TV program called This Is Your Life, sponsored by the Hazel Bishop Lipstick Company. I didn't recognize many of the guests and waited patiently for the commercials. A model with long blonde hair and ruby lips held a jeweled lipstick case as the invisible audience oohed and ahed. I desperately wanted that lipstick. I tried to get up enough courage as I looked toward my mother. The effort was wasted as the clairvoyant answered my unasked question, "I'm sorry, you're not old enough." I resented needing consent. The answer was always, "I'm sorry, you're not old enough." This thing called the aging process was taking forever. As I listened to, "I'm sorry, you cannot drive until you are 16. I'm sorry, you cannot vote until you're 18. I'm sorry, you cannot marry without parental consent until you're 21. Time passes faster when one becomes the consenter. Too soon, the automatic doors opened at the senior center where I found myself applying for membership. I filled out the form only hoping to hear, "I'm sorry, you're not old enough." Instead, the obliging bookkeeper handed me the official Joy of Aging card and smiled and said, "That's a lovely shade of lipstick you're wearing." I fumbled through my purse, pulled out the jeweled case and beamed, "It's Hazel Bishop and I'm old enough."
I remember at 13 I was allowed to have the 5 and dime store to buy Tansy lipstick.
Yeah.
The only place I see it now is up in Old Vermont store there that they advertise sometimes at the Yankee workshop or presentations on PBS. And I had their catalog one time. I wanted to send away for some of that Tansy lipstick. That was the one thing I was allowed to change the color when you put it on your lips. Yeah.
Well, let's read the first date on page 63.
Okay, 63.
The fragrance of apple blossoms filled the air. Soon I would be 12 years old. I packed a lunch along with my Nancy Drew book and headed up to the apple orchard where I climbed in the highest tree and nestled myself among the blossoms. This is what heaven must be like, I thought. Opening my book and munching on peanut butter sandwiches, 2 yellow bees joined me. While flickering them away, I heard my friend Gordy calling. I'm up here, Gordy. He answered, I thought I'd find you here. Do you want to go to the stream and catch salamanders? Not today, I said. I want to be alone. Gordy climbed a tree and our eyes met between the branches. There was something different about him today. He seemed serious and grown up. Was it the arrival of spring that turned the boy into a young man? With his delightful smile, he asked me, would you go on a date with me tomorrow? I didn't know if I was old enough to go on a date, but did not want to disappoint Gordy. Sure, I answered. Where will we go? Gordy smiled his wonderful smile. To the movies, he answered. The next day, I got ready for my first date. I don't remember what I wore, but I remember covering up with a pretty pink bolero jacket. It was the color of the apple blossoms. We took the bus to the Lowe's Poli Theater in Bridgeport, where we watched Doris Day and Gordon McRae paddling a canoe while singing on Moonlight Bay. The movie was almost over when Gordy put his arm around my shoulder. I didn't like that. Count to 5 and threw it off. We barely spoke on the bus ride home. The next morning, I went back to the apple orchard and sat high in a tree. I had a lot of thinking to do. Is that great? Yeah. The next story is true, and these are all true. Telescoped here and there. Oh, I just saw something that I want to do before we get to that, and that is called the pink scarf.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
What page did I say that's on?
61.
Okay. And there's a special reason to read this one.
Okay.
Yep. Sorry. The pink scarf. During the 1950s, rock and roll music filled the lives of most teenagers. I was no exception. Summers were spent at Pleasure Beach Amusement Park, where rock and roll celebrities entertained. I remember the night the Everly Brothers harmonized, opening the show for Chuck Berry, who had a new hit song called Carol. Uh-huh. He came on stage with his guitar, struck a chord, and shouted to the audience, "Where you at, Carol? Where you at?" Carol was a common name in the 50s, and of course there was always a Carol in the audience. "I'm here," I squealed with delight. I was escorted to the stage and stood with Chuck Berry as he duck walked around me and sang Carol. Around my neck, I wore a pink scarf. It was a style for teenage girls to wear pastel-colored neckerchiefs, like Olivia Newton-John and Stockyard Channing in the musical Grease. And let's not forget Natalie Wood in Rebel Without a Cause. Her co-star, James Dean, was my heartthrob. I must remind you, this was 60 years before Kevin Costner. In the movie, Jimmy wore his red jacket, but it was Natalie who wore that pink scarf. When Chuck Berry finished singing, he gave my little scarf a tug and thanked me for joining him on stage. When I got home that night, I tucked the scarf away and kept this precious memory. There will never be another Chuck Berry or another pink scarf.
I like that.
And for the life of me, I can't see at this moment, I have that pink scarf. Yes, I do.
Wow.
I do. At the moment, it remains hidden, but I have it. This one is pretty crazy. The Secret of William Tell and Annie Oakley.
Okay.
True story, page 77.
Oh, 77.
Yep. Mm-hmm. The voice on the phone said, "Hi, it's Pat." Gruffly, I answered, "Pat? I don't know any Pat." "How can you forget your best friend from childhood?" she giggled. "Patty, when did you start calling yourself Pat? I think of you often and always look forward to your Christmas card. You know, the one that says, 'I'll call you soon'? Why did you call today?" "I heard the William Tell overture on the radio this morning," she said. "Most people would think of the Lone Ranger shouting, 'Hi-yo, Silver,' but not me. Do you remember our William Tell experience?" "Of course I do. How could I forget? You made me swear not to tell anyone our secret. I vowed to take it to the grave. At times I hope for an early death." My mind traveled back, visiting the summer of 1948. Patty and I were digging a hole just deep enough to bury potatoes. We were sure the sun would bake them during the day and planned on returning in the evening to eat them, dirt and all. We saw Patty's older sister, Maureen, coming towards us. She was always hanging out with the boys, and today was no different. Peter Petnick was with her playing William Tell. She and Petey claimed to have made an exact replica of Tell's bow and arrow from a willow twig and a piece of kite string. When Maureen pulled the weapon, the string broke and the twig snapped in half. Embarrassed, she said, "Ah, boys don't know anything. I know Annie Oakley was a better marksman than William Tell." Looking directly at me, Maureen said, "I know where my father keeps his World War II rifle. I'll go get it. You run home and get an apple." We didn't have any apples, but there was a bowl of oranges on the table waiting to be squeezed. Mama will never miss this one, I thought, selecting the largest. Maureen ordered Petey to take 10 paces back and place the fruit on his head. He obeyed. The butt of the rifle was against Maureen's shoulder as she looked through the sight and aimed. The shot rang through the air, orange rind flew, and Petey fell to the ground. Terrified, I screamed, "Maureen shot Petey! Maureen shot Petey!" Patty shook her finger at her sister. "You're going to get it when Dad gets home. You killed Petey, you'll be grounded for a month, and he'll ground me too." Petey's dead body stirred. We ran to him. He told us he heard the shot, felt the warm juice, thinking it blood, passed out cold. Somehow Maureen had hit that orange dead center.
By the grace of God.
You tell me. We put the gun back in its hiding place and vowed never to tell anyone. Patty and I returned to the potato hole and silently dug. I still believe William Tell and Annie Oakley were digging with us, for I know Maureen could never have hit that orange. It's quite a story when you think about it.
It is.
That's a big rifle. That's a big rifle, M1, and 12-year-old girl.
Oh, boy.
So, yes. There's so many articles in here that need a little explanation, but this one doesn't.
What's that?
Page 91, the canoe.
I like that one.
The canoe. Well, okay, Friday had finally arrived, and I was looking forward to spending time the weekend with my husband, Albert. He told me he had a surprise planned. I was amazed when he pulled into the driveway with a large canoe strapped to the roof of his car. He talked me into some pretty wild adventures in the past, but no way was I getting in that canoe. "I'm not going canoeing," I said. "I can't even swim, let alone paddle. I've never been in a canoe before." Albert answered, "There's a first time for everything."
Good luck.
We headed upstate to Cornwall. The canoe hung over the windshield and looked like the beak of a large eagle. I began to see rental shops along the way and wondered why Albert hadn't rented a canoe instead of hauling the Eagle all this distance. He explained he got a good bargain and couldn't pass it up.
Yeah, God bless us.
We pulled into the station where two men unloaded the canoe and put it on an all-terrain vehicle. The driver took us through a forest and then straight down a very steep embankment. I was sure this would be the most frightening part of the day. At the shore, Albert told me to get in first. I couldn't understand why I was in the front of the ship and where was the steering wheel. I was also noticed the seat was missing and started to complain. Albert said, "So the seat is missing. Sit on the floor and here's the paddle for you." The handle of the paddle was broken and jagged, but Albert told me not to worry because he would be doing all the paddling and would never need to use it anyway. When my husband hopped into the canoe, my end came out of the water. "Shouldn't I be touching the water?" I said. "Stop worrying about every little detail," he answered. The directions from the truck driver were to follow the stream for 6 miles, and he would pick us up at the other end. 6 miles didn't seem a great distance and should last about 20 minutes. All this way for 20 minutes of canoeing fun. The water was calm, and I started to relax, tidying my clothes. I'd worn a navy blue and white yachting outfit, cute little white shoes, and of course, I never went anywhere without wearing pantyhose. Captain Albert began to give me the rules. You have to sit Indian style. This helps balance the canoe. Most of all, remember, never, never, never stand up no matter what happens, because the canoe will tip over. My heart was pounding, and it hurt sitting Indian style. No wonder the Indians were always on the warpath. "Here's a life jacket, just in case," Albert said, showing me a bright orange thing with broken straps and buckles. It looked uncomfortable and didn't match my outfit. I tossed it aside. As we approached the beautiful Cornwall-covered bridge, I heard loud rumbling. At this point, the riverbed suddenly dropped, and we were in the angry white waters of the mighty Housatonic River. I screamed, turn around, I'm not going through that. I can't swim, we'll never make it." Trying to make me believe there was hope, Albert shouted above the roar. Remember, I got a merit badge in Boy Scouts for canoeing. There's no way to turn around against this current. Hang on, I'll get us through. I screamed, oh my God, we're going to die. I unknotted my legs, slipped off my shoes, wondering what it was like to drown. What would my battered body look like when they dragged me in by my soggy pantyhose? Huge rocks were scraping against the canoe, making horrible, eerie noises. I closed my eyes and we crashed. As we crashed, next page. Our only hope was to get free of the rocks. The water was lifting and smashing us back down. I knew the eagle couldn't take much more. To make matters worse, Albert was now saying the Hail Mary and standing. He pushed the paddle against the rock and the water and lifted up, and the canoe was now airborne. We splashed down to the mighty current as Albert yelled, paddle, paddle, and stay clear of the rocks. I reached for my broken piece of wood and tried to imitate his actions. About a mile later, the water began to calm. I thought I must be hallucinating from the trauma as I saw a man wearing hip boots, trout fishing. He was definitely standing. I jumped out of the canoe, pulled like a mule on the Erie Canal until we reached the embankment. I continued to pull the canoe up a steep hill with Albert still in it. The driver had been searching for us and picked us up at the road. As he lowered the canoe into the truck, he asked, well, how was it? Neither of us answered. I knew I was never going to speak to Albert again. But uncontrollable laughter set in. Tears streamed down my face as I said, look, I ruined my pantyhose.
May I read one that
Please.
has particular significance to me? I've connected for a few things here. It's Independence Day, because I was in the hospital last year.
What page?
I was subjected to the possibility of what this particular poem speaks of.
What page?
On page 310.
Okay.
Independence Day. Where did my independence go? I was in a rehab place, and apparently headed for assisted living, which I was not in agreement with. Where did my independence go? Have they changed the Bill of Rights? My children tell me what to do and keep me in their sight. Hired strangers take care of me. They go through all my things. My children who are cabbages believe they are now kings. I still can make a cup of tea and play a game of gin, but they're always fussing over me and seem to let me win. I can't say they did that with me, but I don't have any children. I have brothers. They treat me like a child and tuck me in at night. With all my pillows piled, they won't shut off the light. I listen to the footsteps, I count them 1 to 10. Then I kick off all the covers, and now I'm in charge again. I did escape the place, and I am in charge of my life anyhow.
Well, this is a true story. On page 158, A Comedy of Errors. Mm-hmm. You notice these are always very short.
Mm-hmm. Well, some are very short, a few paragraphs, and other things are a couple pages, but they're all very interesting.
Park in the fire zone and keep the motor running, I said to my husband. I'll only be in the store for a minute, so don't move. I'll be right out. Of course, she never listens to me. And why I thought that day would be any different was beyond me. When I rushed out of the store and hopped back into the car, I noticed crumpled papers and coffee cups on the floor in the front seat. I raised my voice and nagged, why is this car such a mess? It's not like you. Clean it up right now. It was then I looked over at the stranger sitting behind the steering wheel with his mouth hung open. Excuse me, sir, I'm so sorry. I got in the wrong car. I fumbled with the door handle and struggled to get out. It was about this time that his wife came out of the store, ran towards me, shaking her fist and calling me some pretty low-down names. I tried to reason with the estranged woman. No, wait, it's not what you think. I mistakenly got in the wrong car. She refused to listen. It was now directing her fist at her innocent husband. Thanks to me, this poor guy was having a really bad day. As for my husband, witnessing the entire comedy and laughing uncontrollably, well, let's say he was about to have a bad day. I saw her get in the car, and I said, this is great. I can't wait. And it was just wonderful. Here's a little thing on page 191, very little thing, the sounds of summer pass that many of us can relate to. Croaking frogs beneath my bedroom window. Alvin, Audrey, Paul, Mrs. Otto's call for dinner. the echoing clickety-clack of kick the can under a dim street light, creaking rocking chairs on the front porch, the Iceman's tongs cracking chunks and slivers, women in white aprons snapping green beans dropping into a metal colander, squealing children running through a rubber garden hose, the ragman's horse clopping slowly up the street, slippery salamanders splashing in a stagnant pool, the ice cream man's bells, wait up, wait up. These are the sounds of summer past.
Long past.
I remember, and
Poor
someone,
things are dead.
as I was reading this to some audience a while back, they were talking about horses. They couldn't believe there were horses still around.
Listen, we had cows going up to pasture and coming home at night, right up my street every day. Because this was a very farmy town.
Well, even in the not-so-farms, I grew up in New Haven. So we're coming to the end. I'm going to do a couple of short ones and then one that needs explanation. Why I'm late. It's on page 307.
We read that.
No, did not.
Oh, 307. I
No.
thought we read that. Why I'm late. 307, 307.
Did we read that?
I'll find it, darling. I'll find it.
No.
Okay. Is it a different 307?
No. Why don't you cut?
Wait a minute. I'm getting there. Oh, there I am. Why I'm late.
Okay.
About the elephants.
Yeah,
We read that right at the beginning.
we did. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. Sorry.
All right.
Yes. So, and the poems are all funny and meant to turn a topic on its head, and they do that. So many. If I had a brother, page 324. If I had a brother. If I had a brother, I knit him warm sweaters and argyle socks. I keep all his letters tucked away in a box. At my holiday table, his seat next to mine, I'd toast him and clink crystal glasses of wine. I'd fuss with his hair, I'd pet his cheek, and recall the day he fell in the creek. We'd laugh till we'd cry, my brother and I, remembering childhood days gone by. I'd hug him tightly when he had to go. Just one more second, I love him so. My friend, my hero, never another. He'd always be near. Oh, if I had a brother.
You didn't have children, apparently, right?
Well,
You didn't have children.
one daughter, yes.
And she was lost.
Well, that's a whole story. Let's not get into that.
Okay.
I'm going to look at page 338. Carol loved donkeys. And
I read that.
she had a collection of donkeys. I don't know why, but she loved it. So here's one. I love little gray burros, timid and shy, Jacks and Jennies with dark lashed eyes. At a country fair, I read a sign, one burro for sale. He could be mine. With long ears, he listened as I told him the plan. He lived in my backyard. I named him Dan. I with a shovel, the burro just played. He chewed on the house. He hawed and brayed. An angry neighbor called to say, "Get rid of that donkey now, today." He knocked down the fence and ate all my grass. I love my burro, but he's a pain in the ass.
She had a poem here about somebody's Shih Tzu next door that she really didn't like. Nasty little dog kept leaving his calling card in the dooryard.
If she didn't like it, she wrote about it and you knew about it. You know, that was her way of
Doing this must have been very therapeutic, I would think.
well, she really told, as I go into my presentation, she was totally absorbed. She'd come home on an assignment and she would not rest until that was done. And then she'd fuss with it, and ultimately she'd read it to me. And she never, I would say, well, that's good, but why don't you do, no, she'd never take my advice on anything. But let's go back to the Snow Lady.
Where's the belief? Look where I am.
Look at that. We see we're bonding here. This is a little delicate thing that only she could write. The Snow Lady. The sound of laughter breaks winter's gloomy silence and draws me to my front window. Directly across the street, Maria and her grandchildren are building a snowman. I join the laughter, realizing their sculpture is not a man at all, rather a very curvaceous snow lady. On her head sits a flowered Easter bonnet, giving hope for spring. The snow lady melts into memory as Maria prepares her flower beds. laying wheelbarrows of fresh mulch. Across the street, I'm doing the same. A blur of yellow forsythias wink at lilac buds. Soon, the lilacs will bloom, releasing a lavender fragrance throughout the neighborhood. Summer finds me watering pale pink and fuchsia-colored impatiens. Marie is tending her begonias. She waves and crosses the street to chat. I ask about her grandchildren who are grown now. I mention the snow lady they built many years ago. Through teary eyes, we decide to talk about the flowers. Red and orange leaves quickly turn to rust. Autumn will carpet the lawns and raking begins. Winter will soon arrive. I am drawn to my front window where I reminisce to the sound of laughter and the snow lady wearing her Easter bonnet.
They're all so lovely. It's just,
Oh, a funny one, I got it.
okay, where?
68.
68.
Goodbye, Sandra D.
Oh, no, I didn't read that.
Oh, well. As a teenager in the 50s, getting dressed for a date was an ordeal. It meant getting out the umbrellas. Not that I feared rain. In fact, I would never carry an umbrella on a date. It just would not be cool. Instead, I used the umbrellas to shape my horsehair crinolines. Using a long wooden spoon, I stirred sugar into hot water and the crinolines into the mixture. Then I laid them and spread them among the umbrellas. As they dried, the sugar stiffened the fabric. Getting dressed, I slipped a full circular skirt over the stiff crinolines. I tied my hair into a ponytail with a sheer pink scarf and giggled, well, look at me, I'm Sandra D. I was sure my date would be pleased. The years passed, as is Sandra D. I no longer date because my husband may not approve. Today, when I tie my hair into a ponytail, I frown and say, well, look at me, I'm Willie Nelson.
Yes, I sympathize. Although he has more gray hair than I do. Sadly, I wear hats now because it's either that or a wig.
So, okay, we're back. And our last selection for today, and there's over 300 short stories and poems, so there's a lot here, folks. And we'll talk about that in a moment. And this is the only serious thing that Carol wrote. And I kept it separate from all the other chapters because it's so very, very different. I used to use it in AP Psychology, and people all across the country have gotten back to me on this. And I'm not through with it yet. I have some ideas. But it's called The Emotional Tea Party. So here we go. They have been with me throughout my life, never invited, always controlling and mightier than myself. This is the first time I will see them together. I will be able to observe their interactions. Some have never seen each other. Others go hand in hand, visiting me when they please, and leaving only when they decide the visit is over. And me knowing, always knowing, they will visit me again. The tea table is lavishly set with silver tea service, china cups, lacy linens, fragrant flowers, trays of sprinkled cookies, and little cakes with pastel icing. I've changed the seating arrangement several times. The only place card not moved is my own. At the head of the table, I will pour and try to be polite to those I wish were not there. Who will be the first to arrive, I wonder? My question is quickly answered as I see Greed coming up the garden path. Of course, who else? She must always be first. She doesn't frighten me at all. She's the one who visits me the least, and I'm grateful for that. Behind her comes confusion, not knowing which way to go, but always wanting to do the right thing. I watch her as she trips and falls, becoming disoriented as she tries to follow the path. Next come the twins dressed in their bright green outfits, accenting their glazing green eyes. Yes, they are jealousy and envy. They look so much alike, and yet there is a slight difference in their appearance. They will watch the others closely and never find satisfaction in who they are or what they have, only and always wanting what is not theirs to have. Love comes unexpectedly next. Her starry eyes, moist with tears, will be seated between happiness and sadness. She's much stronger than most of the guests, but at the same time, very tender and easily hurt. Hate is next, dragging rage and anger chained to her scarlet garment. She comes when outrageous injustice has been done. She comes when demons laugh and get their way and leave me beaten, hopeless, and in despair. Many, many more filled the chairs around this enormous tea table. Only 2 are empty now. One to my immediate right, as close to me as possible. The other the farthest away, as I dread her coming. She is grief. She is the strongest of all. I watch her now coming up the path, dragging her crippled legs, pulling her deformed body inch by inch, as I feel fear reaching out for me. Her party dress is gray. Her complexion is ashen, as she looks at me with yellowish eyes and remembers the sounds of wretched wailing and weeping. She rejoices as she tries to take my mind, my body, my inner soul. Stay away, grief. Drink your tea, eat your cake, and go. The last guest, dressed in brilliant white, is my intimate friend. Her name is Peace. She is the most beautiful. She pops in and out of my life. She's the one I need the most. She and only she is the one I want with me through eternity. She's the only one I embrace and beg to stay with me long after this emotional tea party has ended.
Thank you very much. That is wonderful. Now, where can people obtain
Okay.
this lovely book?
Personal Carol is available everywhere, on eBay, on Amazon, in Barnes & Nobles. It's available in Kindle, and it's in 175 libraries. Chances are where you are is in a library. It's in 5 state libraries. It's in Rhode Island and Massachusetts and New York. So it's there, and it's a lot of fun. It's the kind of book you can read just a couple of stories and pick it up 3 days later and continue, because everything is completely separate. And it's been my odyssey, and I'm very grateful and pleased at the folks here for having me here. And it goes on. I'm booking presentations into September. And if you have one, if you look at the website, which is carolruggiero.com, CarolRuggiero, carolruggiero.com. You can see lots of excerpts, and you could look under for my website, her website. It's a lot of fun, and I encourage everyone at least to look at the website, carolruggiero.com.
And I also thank you very much for what I told you was my great weekend. I mean, you mentioned chocolate, and here they are, and I'm here too. Thank you so much. Now, what do we do here?
We're going to end with a song, and I'm sure you remember. And I'm in 3 bands. There's music always in my head, but this one everybody likes. Everyone likes. See if you recognize it. Oh, and there we go again. Sorry about that, folks. Goodbye.